I will only ever love you with my arms behind my back because I'm gonna love you heart forward. It's all I know.
Hello, faithful listeners of Earth and Space. Welcome to the very first podcast of name I don't know yet, but hopefully we'll come up with soon. And if you're listening to this, maybe you can help me. I don't really know what to do with this podcast, but I know I wanted to do some sort of podcast or YouTube channel or something to get my name out there. My name is Aisa Youssef, and I am a 24-year-old African American Native American. And I am making this podcast to get information out to young people like me. I want to become a social justice journalist, and I want to make the world a better place. I work with a lot of youth food justice organizations, and I go to school, and I pretty much do things that most people my age do. I'm a social media queen. I have almost every social media that you can think of out there: a Facebook, a Twitter, an Instagram, and now I even got a Snapchat. Even though I told myself I was never going to get a Snapchat because I figured it was stupid and I don't need any more social media out there, I got one anyways, which will probably get canceled soon. So, but you can follow me anyways. But the purpose of this podcast, I would hope, is to bring hope and light and peace and justice to the world and to just have a great time talking about things and learning things that you might not know up front, that you might not have been taught during your life, but will hopefully gain some knowledge from the things that I will be talking about. Now, I'll be talking about things such as social justice, culture, racism, things of that nature. But I will also be talking about very lighthearted things like music, one of my passions, and one of the things that I listen to every single day of my life, music. Different entertainment, different things that have to do with our childhood, being a 90s kid. Hello, Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, Disney Channel. I'll be talking about all of that. And I'll also be just bringing you insightful topics that might not be being talked about from our generation, but should. And hopefully bring more insightfulness into the millennial generation. If you're listening to this and you know who I am, then you know that I have a blog. And if you do not know who I am, well then hello, I have a blog. It's on wordpress.com. It is ice, I-C-E, turtle, Turtle, girl, Girl, .wordpress.com. turtlegirl.wordpress.com. And it is my life. I write on there almost all the time, and I'm always having something to say about something going on in the world, whether it has to do with culture or something having to do with what's going on in the news, or even just something that has to do with music, or, maybe my favorite TV show is having its 20th anniversary. Like back when I started my WordPress blog, I started talking about Doug. You remember that show? Nickelodeon, 90s kid. I know you do. Doug, the Beats, Pork Chop, Skeeter, all of that. Patty Mayonnaise, you know. And I made a blog about it, about celebrating its 20th anniversary. So things like that will come up. Things like the Orlando shooting we just had. I wrote a blog about that. Or I write a blog about my favorite music that I'm listening to this summer. It just depends on my mood and what I would like to share with the world at that certain time. I even wrote a blog post about being an indigo kid and what that means and what bringing light to the world as an indigo kid means. My topics are very random, but very insightful at the same time, and I just want to bring light and love and peace and blessings and harmony to the world and make sure that everybody is being accounted for in the topics that are being presented to this world. There are very many social justice news sites and blogs and everything out there, but the thing that sort of gets left out a little bit is my generation, the millennials. And so I just want to bring this podcast and my blog and the things I put on social media as a representation of who we are as millennial children. It's a sneak peek into something that you can see or hear on this podcast. A topic that I might go over is maybe what I'm listening to this summer. So this summer, I am listening to actually a lot of pop dance music from like the 80s, but like an 80s inspired from like today, like Tegan and Sarah, and like different artists like that. Like the new Weezer album that came out a couple of months ago. I'm listening to a lot of folk. I'm listening to the new Nako and Medicine for the People album, Hoka that came out this month actually. 21 Pilots, who I'm a huge fan of. I'm part of the clique. They just came out with a song for the Suicide Squad album, and I love Heathens. It's such a great song. Fall Out Boy just came out with a song featuring Missy Elliott, which are two of my favorite artists, so that's awesome. And it's just a lot of eclecticness that I listen to on my Spotify, which I will link all of these things to this podcast when I post it. But I just want you guys to get a feeling of some of the topics that you might see on this podcast. Like right now, I have a playlist on my Spotify. It's called Sounds of Summer 16, and it has lots of different songs on there. Like the first song is Heathens by 21 Pilots, and then a lot of the new Hoka album by Nako Medicine for the People, and one of my favorite songs on there right now is Heart Forward, and It Is Written. And then the Zara Larsson song, Never Forget You, which is so awesome. I've loved it since like last year. Love You to Death. I have a couple songs from that, from Tegan and Sarah. Issues, which is a metalcore band that I've recently discovered, and they are incredible. They mix like R&B and like screaming and metalcore, but it's like so awesome. They just came out with an album this year called Headspace. And then of course there's Weezer. They just came out with their White album. Santi Gold, who I just saw back in May, and she was incredible. I actually have a blog post that you guys can go check out on there. But she is awesome. She has her new album out, 99 Cents. The Internet, who came out with an album last year, Ego Death. I have some songs from them. Oh, one of a band that I just sort of discovered. They're in the same vein as The Internet. They're called Phony People, and they have an album out this year too called Yesterday's Tomorrow. And if you haven't listened to them before, you should totally check them out. Anderson .Paak's album Malibu, awesome. Gold Link, Doja Cat, who I'm kind of obsessed with right now. I love her. Mute Math and Miguel with his Waves remixes. I've been listening to a lot of A Tribe Called Red. They have new music out, and it's awesome. Totally check that out. Troye Sivan, Youth. That song is. I didn't know that I would like Troye Sivan because I haven't listened to him before, but then I listened to him once, and I kind of got hooked on that song. So I will probably listen to more of his music soon. Bill Kalitz from Tokyo Hotel. He has a new album out. It's a solo album, and I don't really like the whole album and all the songs, but one of them that caught my eye is Not Over You. It has kind of an R&B feel. De La Soul come out with a new album soon, and one of their singles is Pain featuring Snoop Dogg, and then you have Wolf Alice, Bros, and Don't Threaten Me With a Good Time off Death of a Bachelor by Panic! At the Disco. So if you want to check out any of those songs, go check out my Spotify, which I will link, and check out those songs. They're all awesome. I also get a lot of my music from SoundCloud and also Apple Music. Shout out to Ebro, who has a show on Beats One, and he has it every day, Monday through Thursday, at 6 p.m. Eastern, and it is awesome. He does radio from New York, and so he does music from all over the world, but for one part of the show, he does the borough check, where he does music strictly from New York and New Jersey, which is so cool. I've discovered so much music from his show. I forget to listen to his show all the time, but I hopefully will start listening to it more on a regular basis because that's where I discover a lot of my new music. And also, Beats One is a really great program where a lot of different artists and people just have this freedom where they can DJ or they can just bring people on to talk about life. Like Mary J. Blige has a show on Beats One. I think it's on Sundays at some time. And she brings on different actors and actresses and musicians and rappers and stuff, and they just talk about life and listen to their music and discography, and it's just really awesome to think about. And then there's like Jaden Smith, and he has a show on there, and he's just like this cool millennial DJ who just brings in all the cool new music from that perspective. And then, of course, there's Pharrell Williams. He has a show on there, and he'll bring on different artists and stuff and just talk about being other and being cool, Pharrell. And then, so it's a really great program that you guys should check out if you have Apple Music. You should totally check it out. And then I also have my SoundCloud, which I also link, and it's I really love SoundCloud because I listen to a lot of remixes that people make, but also I listen to a lot of new artists that probably wouldn't have listened to otherwise, or a lot of artists that are more indie, and I can listen to their music on there because it's free and they don't have the money to like get onto iTunes or get onto Spotify yet, but they are indie and they're trying to make it, so you can discover new music that way. And of course there's YouTube. I kind of gotten into YouTube a lot lately. There are a lot of different YouTubers that I watch. There's Megan Hughes, who I'm kind of into a lot. There's Koi Fresco, Seren, who I'm not going to try to pronounce her YouTube name, but her name is Seren. She's an African American girl that talks about racism from a modern day standpoint. There's also Jermaine Sam, who is a Native American YouTuber, so I'm totally into that. And there's lots of different YouTubers that I watch on a daily basis. There's Black Nerd Comedy, who I love, who just talks about different like nerdy stuff from like the 80s and 90s, but also like movie reviews and like vlogs and stuff, which is cool. And YouTube is a great way to get all your stuff out there, and I'm learning that you can make so much money off YouTube, which is why I'm thinking of making a YouTube channel. I just don't know what my YouTube channel would be about, but we'll see. If this podcast goes well, one day I probably will make a YouTube channel and start making some money off of that. But hopefully people will come back to this podcast after listening to this intro podcast and seeing what I'm about and seeing what you can expect from this. Hopefully you guys will be interested and intrigued to come back. I'm actually going to take a second and read to you one of my blog posts so that you can just get a glimpse into where my head is at. This blog post that I wrote on April 23rd is a new series that I had started. It's called News Update from the World to You, a social justice commentary on what is going on in the world. And I did an issue number 1, and now this is issue number 2. And some of the topics that I talk about in this blog post is Prince and the idea of transcending race, Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill, Blackface Bob Marley, and Democracy Springs. So, it starts off, hello world, time for another social justice news update from around the world, giving you news and my perspective on it all from those fighting the good fight all around our Mother Earth. And climate justice news, it's Earth Day. And then I had written a blog post about Earth Day, which you can check out. It's kind of old. It's from like 2014, but you can check it out. MIA wrote a song for H&M's World Recycle Week, April 18th through 24th. They will take your old clothes and recycle them while giving you store credit. Her song, per usual, is catchy while helping a good cause. And then I have it linked. And then there's the Earth Guardians, which if you don't know about the Earth Guardians, they are these powerful, powerful brothers from Colorado, and they have their own organization called Earth Guardians, and they are bringing environmental justice to the forefront for people in his age group. So he's only 15, and his brother's only, I think, like 13 now. But they've gone all over the world. They've gone to different conferences. They even sued the Obama administration for reparations and climate justice, and they're just an amazing, amazing group, doing a lot of amazing things on climate justice. So if you haven't checked them out, go check them out. They're the Earth Guardians. Earth Guardians, who I just think are incredible young people, are taking over the UN Climate Conference, recently sued the Obama administration for lack of care when it comes to climate justice causes, and they won. Also, there's a big group at the UN Climate Conference this weekend getting ready to sign the Paris Climate Agreement. In the Flint water crisis news, people are finally being compensated in this whole crazy mess. Charges were filed against Flint employee Michael Glasgow and Michigan Department of Environmental Quality employees Stephen Bush and Michael Prisby. Also, big ups to Leonardo DiCaprio for fighting for us and caring for the earth and climate justice. Berlin happened where a subway was hit in the vein, and now I'm doing terrorist news. So I do different news topics. So like the first one was environmental news, now I'm doing news on terrorists. So, in terrorist news, Berlin happened where a subway was hit in the same vein as the 2015 Paris attacks. Also, some of the young girls who were taken from their villages by Boko Haram are being treated with the lack of respect they deserved. They are being treated as if they are terrorists and being seen as if they are spies or have been brainwashed due to being kidnapped. Sad. They deserve to be treated with way more respect and dignity than that. Now, in Black Lives Matter news. In Florida, recently a police officer watched 3 teens drown in a stolen car and they did nothing but watch. You hear in the dash cam video, the officers hear them yelling, then a few minutes later they are heard saying, 6 to 7, they're done, dude. This breaks my heart so much. So what if they were criminals? So what? Any human being would have saved them. Also, a Texas cop body slammed a young 12-year-old middle school girl when she started to cause a ruckus in class. Of course, per usual, the police officer got off with only being put on administrative leave. Bill Clinton is not a fan of Black Lives Matter. Hillary was giving a speech at the Black Lives Matter woman, and a Black Lives Matter woman interrupted her and was thrown out of the rally. The Black Lives Matter woman wanted to address Hillary on her calling black super predators back in the 90s and for signing the crime bill sending thousands of black people to jail over minor criminal offenses. She did apologize for it, but Bill is saying that the families of these people were the ones who wanted the bill signed as they wanted to get their kids off the street and stop them from being killed. He says this Black Lives Matter woman is supporting the very people killing those lives they say are protesting. Of course, there is more. I would go over the latest list of other police killings that happened in 2016, but there are too many to talk about. But I am a big supporter of the Black Lives Matter movement. I actually just saw the women who started the movement on Black Girls Rock, which was amazing. Big ups to Freddie Gray and his family, plus the city of Baltimore on the 1-year anniversary of Freddie's death. Speaking on Black Girls Rock, I watched this year's show and it was pretty great, per usual, with Amanda Steinberg, who you might know as Rue from the Hunger Games, receiving the Young Gifted in Black Award, which recognized her amazing way she has taken the reins on social media to help fight the ongoing racism and cultural appropriation, as well as being a champion for LGBTQ youth, all while being unapologetically black. Brandy performed her amazing song Beggin' and Pleadin', and Lauryn Hill did a melody of Lost One with some Fela dancers helping her out. Good show overall. Harriet Tubman is going to be on the $20 bill and is, of course, drawing controversy. She won't be on there until 2020, but people are on two sides of the fence. On the one hand, people are happy that we are getting a piece of the pie, but also know that by the time she is on the bill, it will be when paper money goes away, as it is already devalued. Then there are those who feel even considering putting her on the bill is wrong, as he was completely against the idea of capital, as she was completely against the idea of capitalism. She was an abolitionist, feminist, farmer, herbalist, and just a powerful woman. The idea of even putting her on the bill is blasphemy, as she is only going to be on the front of the bill, not even the back, which will still have Andrew Jackson. If we are going to pretend that this thing called money really matters, then let's be really symbolic with it and have Harriet on the front and a Native American person on the back to replace Jackson. I personally don't think Harriet or anyone else should be on this capitalist money because it was not created for us. Another thing that happened on 420 is the Bob Marley blackface filter on Snapchat. Apparently this was made by the Marley estate, where they came up with this face swap filter where you can wear the face, locks, and hat of Bob Marley. Now this caused some people to get up in arms and call this digital blackface. I'm not saying to say Bob is the reason people want to smoke weed and listen to reggae music, but Bob is the reason people want to smoke weed and listen to reggae music. He is also the reason people want to lock their hair, some look better than others. He was a man of the people and all people, and yes, he was black, but he did have a white daddy and was with his share of women across the rainbow. So this is digital blackface, no doubt. Would have been better if this just had his hat and locks, not the actual face. Can't we just have a little fun and celebrate his spirit, appreciate the culture, and be respectful? Big ups to Bob and the Marley family. In music news, legends in the music world are dropping like flies late 2015-16. Natalie Cole, Maurice White, Phife Dawg, David Bowie, Scott Weiland, Glenn Frey, and now Prince, among others. I can't do this anymore. 2016, if another one dies, I'm done for real. Prince is dead. The purple one has left the building Thursday, April 21st. It is said he died of a severe case of the flu. He is left by adoring fans everywhere. I wasn't as big a fan of him as I am MJ, but I did watch Purple Rain growing up when he would take road trips, and I knew that whole soundtrack. My brother-in-law was a huge Prince fan, and that's how I got into his music. Now like MJ and Whitney, they had voices, messages, and a style all their own that resonated with millions all over the world. That being said, at the end of the day, they were black. I have been seeing a lot of social media posts since Prince's death, and a lot of them talking about how he transcended race. This meaning because he didn't fit into the narrative of black people, he transcended race by playing rock music and being androgynous. He was more palatable to the mainstream, which, if you think about it, Prince was not even here to be mainstream and cater to the media. When he became the artist formerly known as, he didn't even want to be the name. He wanted his flared out Ankh symbol to represent him as an artist, yet due to media pressure, he ended up changing his name back to Prince. He fought the same struggle any black person of his time and before him had to deal with, and was very much a fighter in black causes. He just last year played a free concert in the wake of Freddie Gray's death in Baltimore at the hands of the police. Remember his Grammy speech on books and Black lives? As much as his music was for everyone, he was not really here to be this media spectacle and was just as black as ever. I also think Prince was an indigo like Michael, a highly spiritual, talented, different person who comes to Earth for a short time to influence the masses and then in a flash, his color was purple, and the symbol was young. For a reason he knew what's up, as purple is a highly spiritual color, and the Ankh is a high power symbol. Also, he was talking about chemtrails and stuff before it became mainstream to talk about stuff like that. Rest in power, Prince. You are now with Michael and Whitney. Your music will live on forever in our hearts. In feminist news, Kesha is still stuck in her contract with Sony, and Dr. Luke is still free to produce for fools who choose to work with him. They made a fool of Kesha in the courtroom, and I just feel so bad for her and wouldn't wish this nightmare on anyone. People needs to take this seriously. True or not, always believe the rape victims, always. She is strong enough and with support of her family, friends, and fans, she will get through this. Oh, and can I just say Taylor Swift is a tool, and I completely agree with Demi Lovato on this. Sending money, sure, great, but what people like Kesha and others really need is action behind words and money. In LGBTQ news, and this was updated, this is put out in April, so this is before the Orlando shooting, or this would have been part of it. Many southern states will not let transgender folks go to the bathroom in their gender. Now pee and poop is pee and poop, and at its most basic level, it's biology. Every human, no matter who, have to relieve themselves, and I don't know why it matters which bathroom you use. Would you rather me go on myself while I wait for my assigned at birth gender bathroom to be free when the other one is 100% free? So stupid. Just create a bathroom for transgender people and move on. Then you don't have to deal with them at all. Of course, good old Target is all for letting the transgender community use their bathrooms, as they're smart and know they will lose money, plus it's morally right. This has also gotten some artists involved in this fight for gender equality. Some have decided to not play in certain states who go by this HRC law, most notably Pearl Jam and Bruce Springsteen not playing in North Carolina. On the other hand, you have people like Laura Grace Jane and Casey Musgrave not letting this law stop them from playing in North Carolina and are taking a stand this way. Of course, I understand both ways of taking a stand. In presidential candidate news, some voters in New York were unable to vote last week during the primary. When some voters went to vote, their names were not on the voter list, or they couldn't vote at their station. Donald Trump and Ted Cruz are both still idiots, and their memes, videos, and pictures, gifs, and such are so hilarious. This latest 7-Eleven videos are so funny. Then Bernie is a little behind Hillary, and I sadly think unless he picks up his poll by the summer, that Hillary is going to be the candidate, even though I like what Bernie is doing better. As long as Trump or Cruz is not in the White House, I, at this point, don't really care who gets in, as they are just puppets of the system. In general social justice news, Democracy Springs happened last week, and many millions upon millions, came to the nation's capital to have sit-ins and protest the unfair way our country is being run, from our economic to labor to education to voting rights laws to environmental issues and everything in between. Over 900 people were arrested, including some celebrities like Rosario Dawson. I wanted to go down and support, but unfortunately I was in class during the time of the protest, and plus I'm poor with no bail money. I think that's it, but there is always more, so be on the lookout for more of these news updates to keep you in the know in the future. Also, if you're looking for alternatives to the mainstream news, check out these news outlets: Democracy Now!, RT, Young Turks, AG+, and Al Jazeera. If you liked my reading of one of my blog posts, I hope you got a lot out of it, and if you would like to go and check out my blog, please feel free to. It is iceturtlegirl.wordpress.com. Please go check it out. I write on there all the time, talked about it already in this podcast, but please go check it out. Now, in this podcast, I talk a lot about indigos, and there are some pretty fabulous young people that I have written a lot of different posts about. One of them, most famously, who calls herself an indigo, is Willow Smith, who is probably the daughter that I hope I have when I have a daughter one day. I just love her. She considers herself an indigo, and her and her brother have this cool thing that they do called the Mystery School. And basically, it's homeschooling, but they learn about different things that you wouldn't learn in a normal curriculum. They, a couple of years ago, had this weird to the mainstream, of course, weird interview that they did where they talked about different things such as the time-space continuum, quantum physics, and other things such as. And people thought they were weird. But I, of course, being who I am, thought they were the most incredible people, and they were really going to lead the next generation to a higher ground. There are different indigos that I have seen in the new generation, making music, making movies, just being fabulous people. People like Willow Smith and her brother Jaden, uh, Amanda Steinberg from the Hunger Games. She's amazing, and I just love her natural hair goals. Um, Also, Shailene Woodley, I love her. She's so cool. And Nako Bear, and Zoe Kravitz, and Rory, who is he's a rapper from the ATL, but he does like folk rap. So he'll like rap on a verse, and then he'll do like a chorus that is more like folky, which is it's really really cool. You should check it out. And like lots of different artists out there today are doing a lot of really dope things that you wouldn't expect from my generation, because you expect my generation to just be social media all the time and to just care about cat videos. But there are a lot of different artists and people out there in the mainstream that are actually doing incredible things. You should definitely check out Willow's album she came out with back in like December. A lot of people thought it was weird and like out of their mind frame, but for me it was just incredible. Like, I love what she's talking about. Her lyrics are so real, and they talk about such important things that are going on in life. Just check out all those people that I talked about, Earth Guardians and stuff, and you'll be surprised what the messages are in their music. Even people like Chance the Rapper and Joey Badass and all these people, like, their mind frame is so cool, and like they get it, and I feel like they're the new indigo kids of the 21st century, of the millennial age, and they're using social media, and they're not using social media just to be mindless robots. They're using social media to gather the masses and to bring light and love and harmony and music to a culture of zombies. So I really appreciate them. Okay, well, I have talked to you guys enough for today, but I hope that you guys take this podcast and share it with your friends and share it with people you know, and help me help you. I want to make this podcast the best thing that it can be, but I need a little help. I'm going to upload this podcast to SoundCloud. I need you guys to go to my SoundCloud, which I will share with you guys when I figure out what the name of my SoundCloud is. But if you type in Ice Dog 49 or Aisa Youssef, you should find it. But I'm going to post this on SoundCloud, and I would love it if you would go over there and write some comments of things you think I should change, or things that you think I should put in there, or I should slow down my talking, or just things to help me out. I would really, really appreciate it, because I really want this podcast to be something that people of all ages, but people of my generation, can take and know that it's theirs, and that we can have honest conversations about things going on in the world, and we can laugh and we can cry and we can just have an amazing experience with this podcast and all the different things that I will be talking about. And hopefully over time, if my podcast gets big enough, I'll be able to bring, special people on to talk about things that they're doing, and to talk about important things that are going on in their lives and things that they're doing in their communities and helping people out in the world. So if you really love this, please go check out this podcast on SoundCloud. I'm going to be uploading it soon, and please go check it out. Also, in the beginning and ending of all of my videos, I will be having a special song or clip from YouTube or something that I really feel is a powerful song or clip or whatever I'll read like a poem or something if it calls to me, something important that I've been listening to or watching or reading lately. So I hope that you've enjoyed this intro podcast to the podcast that, again, I need help finding a name. But if you guys can think of one, please feel free. Thank you, and check this out on the SoundCloud and come back again. All right. Peace and blessings.